everyone, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about health. And as a disclaimer, not giving any health advice, but I'm a big believer in sharing experiences with each other and learning from each other. Because in this day and age, the institutions and the powers that be are not sharing information with us for our best interest. Bottom line is that they're about the bottom line. It's about profits, stock margins, and all this stuff. It's not about our health and our happiness anymore in any district, sector, whatever, any direction you look as far as business goes. They're out to make money. And in some cases, well, in all cases, that's a bad thing, but in some cases, it's a horrible thing. And the health and medical pharmaceutical industry is one of those cases, because they used to be about trying to keep people healthy and save lives. Now it's all about money and profits. Without giving any medical advice, I would like to say that when I look back at my childhood, and I remember how things were, there were a lot of things that didn't exist. There was no Alzheimer's when I was a kid. There was no such thing as Alzheimer's. There really wasn't any ADHD or autism. These kind of things did not really exist back then. It wasn't anything we ever heard about. We weren't aware of it, aware of them. They just didn't really exist. Maybe in a very small percentage of people had these things, but they were rare, very rare. And I never met any kids with any of this, and I never met or heard of any old people with Alzheimer's back then. You never heard the word Alzheimer's on TV or the news. You never heard the word autism on TV or the news. You just never heard of that stuff back then because it didn't really exist. Now, with all these advancements in technology and the medical field and chemistry and all this, you think that we would have less disease and less health problems, less mental health problems, but we have more. All of these new issues, illnesses are being diagnosed now that didn't exist back then. And a doctor is really quick to prescribe you a medication for something that, in my personal opinion, could probably be changed by just a dietary change, or maybe just a habit change, a habitual change. Just do something about it. Go take a walk or something, you know what I mean? Something like that. So I see all this stuff popping up, and then you see all this new behavior, all these mass shootings. Why? There were machine guns back then. There were assault rifles back then. Why were there no mass shootings back then? Why weren't kids going to schools and people doing it? Why wasn't it really a thing back then? All right. Now, of course, everybody wants to blame guns, but nobody wants to ask, hey, why are these people doing this? What kind of medications are they on? What, have they been diagnosed with something? What's going on with the person? They want to know what kind of gun they used. What was the weapon they used? Not what was the medication they were using. Check this person's prescriptions. What was this person putting into their body to change the chemistry in their brain? I've never heard anybody ask that question in the news or any of that stuff when they report these kind of incidents. But if you look back then, when we were kids, when that stuff really didn't happen, and now, and when it's happening pretty regularly, what has changed? They haven't had this big advancement in gun technology to make guns more addictive. That hasn't happened. Guns are still guns. They're just pieces of metal. Guns are pretty much the same. They might be more accurate, shoot a little farther, whatever. There's been advancements in that area, but not the connection between the gun and the person. We haven't gotten chips that integrate the guns with us or any weird shit like that. So it's not the gun. The pharmaceutical industry has advanced quite a bit. They've changed quite a bit and put out a whole lot of medication that messes with our brain chemistry, our thought patterns, and all that. That's changed. There are a lot more prescriptions being handed out today than there were back then. Our food has changed. There are a lot more chemicals and stuff in our food now than there were back then. These are the kind of things that have changed to affect people's brains. The gun has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. And we, as a species, have a lot of knowledge out there about medication, medical health, that we can get from each other. Because you might have the best doctor in the world, but if they're being lied to, they don't know the truth either. They're just as befuddled as everyone else. Not only that, but they're pressured to sell these drugs. Now, I went to one doctor, and he ran a battery of tests on me just as a checkup thing. And he told me that I had a 0.003% chance of having a heart attack in the next 10 years. That's exactly what he told me. And that's pretty damn good. And he was like, yeah, you're in great shape, whatever. Go to another doctor a couple years later or whatever, and they want to tell me my cholesterol is high and I need to get on some pill. Now, they're just looking at a chart with numbers on it that somebody gave them. They have no idea if these numbers apply to my body. They just have no idea. But they want to give me a pill for it. I'm not taking a pill for it. My cholesterol's fine. I don't believe that doctor knows what they're talking about. Honestly, personally, I'm not worried about my cholesterol. I don't care what they say. My cholesterol is fine. And I'm healthy. I have absolutely no symptoms, no outward problems with my physical self, but they want to put me on a pill. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me there. Oh, the doctor says you should get on the pill. Yep, I know. But no amount of coercion is going to get me to take that pill. I know for a fact that the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry do not make money off of healthy people. Period. They can't. They can't make money on me when I'm sitting at my house just exercising and hanging out, whatever, being healthy, going to work, being healthy. They can't make money off of me. They've got to make money off of me by me being sick. That's the only way they can make money off of me. Or at least scaring me into thinking I'm sick so that I'll get on medications that I either need to stay alive because I'm sick, because I've been eating this shit food for the last 30 years and not exercising, or by just telling me I need to, even though I don't feel sick in any way at all. They'll have me believing I'm sick because they've got bills to pay. Now, for some reason, we've all heard the stories about the mechanics who would tell you your transmission's going out and sell you a transmission and all this stuff. Now, what makes anyone think that doctors are so much more honorable and honest than mechanics? My point is that they'll lie to you just like any other business, trade, profession, occupation. They're not honorable anymore. We still keep that in our head that, the Hippocratic Oath and all that stuff from back in the day. That stuff is so far gone, they've forgotten all about that shit. And the few people down on the lower ranks, nurses and stuff, who are actually trying to save lives, and doctors, surgeons and stuff, who are actually trying to save lives, see what's going on and they despise it. Because there are people in there who care, but they don't have the power to create change. And if they were to stand up and say something, they'd just get fired. They wouldn't get all this backing because everybody else is afraid of losing their job. So they'd stand up alone. So what's the point? Just get myself fired on principle? my family go hungry, make my little boy go starve and live under a bridge because I've got principles. I trust the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry about equal to the amount I trust the government, about equal to the amount that I trust the Chinese government to look out for my best interests, which is the same as our government, in my opinion. I mean, they look out for our interests about equally, and that's about equal to all the big businesses, the big monopolies and stuff we have now. And to tell you a story, my stepfather had a heart attack. They rush him to the hospital, get him back to normal, whatever, and they sit him down. Once they get him back stabilized and stuff, they sit him down and have him filling out paperwork, right? Just sitting down at a desk, he's filling out the paperwork. Well, he has another one right there and flatlines. Beep! Dies right there at the table, dead. So they rush in, throw him on a gurney, take him to the thing with the paddles, clear, all that, bring him back to life. Now, this dude has been drinking and, just doing all that stuff for, 40, 50 years, not taking care of himself, and he had a heart attack. All right. Now, here's the thing. He recovered from that, come out of the hospital, and these doctors are now telling him he's got to go in once a month and get tests and give blood and all this stuff, and they test him and everything, and now they've got him on all these medications, all these pills to try to get all these numbers lined up right. He's got to be, all these numbers have got to be. And every time I go over there to see him and my mom, he would tell me about all this stuff and how his triglycerides or something like that, he couldn't get one of those numbers down. He quit drinking beer, quit smoking, quit doing everything he could think of. And this number just wouldn't come down. And I had been, doing research and watching documentaries and stuff, and I had started a year or two prior, I had started eating cayenne pepper and coconut sugar. I switched from regular sugar to coconut sugar. And so I told him that, and I explained to him about the cayenne pepper and what I'd learned about it and the coconut sugar. So I told him, why don't you just throw away your black pepper and your white sugar and switch. You don't need a lot of cayenne pepper, but just start eating that on your food instead of black pepper. That stuff is supposed to be really good for your heart. And the same with the coconut sugar. It's just as sweet as regular sugar. It tastes practically the same. It's just got like a little bit of a roasted flavor to it. I like the taste better, honestly, but it's just as sweet. But now me and my wife use that in our coffee. But anyway, so he does it. I finally convinced him. It took months of me, talking to him about it until I finally convinced him to give it a try because he tried everything else. Now, he started eating cayenne pepper and switched to coconut sugar. And the next time he went, within weeks of that, the next time he went to the doctor, his numbers were perfect. That triglyceride came down. Everything was perfect. And he just couldn't believe it. Now, there are natural things, and cayenne pepper, from what I've heard and from what I've learned in my own personal experience with my stepfather and myself, cayenne pepper is the best thing for your heart. For a doctor not to be telling us this is just ridiculous, in my opinion. They should be telling us this. Cayenne pepper, for people with heart problems, depending on the heart problem, but it's just supposed to be wonderful for your heart. And everything I've seen in documentaries and stuff and in real life, it's true. But do your own due diligence, do your own research. I'm not giving any advice. I'm just telling you what I believe and what I've seen in my own life. Now, the same thing about coconut sugar is that my wife has the thing with she's not diabetic, but she's got to watch her sugar or insulin or whatever. I don't know the words, but she checks her blood sugar level. And if she eats a piece of bread, that blood sugar level will spike. But if she uses coconut sugar or drinks a teaspoon of coconut sugar in her coffee, then checks her level, nothing. It doesn't affect her sugar levels at all. Even though it's sugar, it's coconut sugar. We get that organic coconut sugar, and it doesn't affect her blood sugar levels at all. She checks them, and they're just no problem at all. So that, in my experience and from what I've read, that coconut sugar does not spike your insulin or sucrose, whatever the word is. It does not spike that like regular sugar and corn syrup and shit. I use it to make my own bread. I use it anytime I cook with or coffee or anything like that. We don't even keep white or brown sugar in our house. We just keep coconut sugar. So even if you have a suspicion that it might be better for you, it's worth it to switch. In my opinion, it's not hurting us. It's not hurting people. Where there is evidence that white sugar and high fructose corn syrup are hurting people. So, and the same thing with cayenne pepper. Switching from black pepper to cayenne pepper won't hurt you, and it might just help you. And I'm not saying not to trust your doctor or not to take your doctor's advice or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't trust my doctor and I don't take my doctor's advice. So y'all can do what you want. I mean, you gotta use common sense and do due diligence. When they prescribe you a medication, I do advise you to do some research on that medication before you take it for any extended period of time. That's some advice I will give. Learn. Do some research. Take an hour before you start taking some pill you've never heard of for the rest of your life. Take an hour and do some research on it and find out what people are saying about it, people who have actually taken it. Because people take these medications that they say aren't addictive, and then these people will make YouTube videos talking about all these effects that they get when they try to quit the medication. All these brain zaps and hallucinations, not from the medication, from quitting the medication. So that's some stuff you should look into and at least be aware of when you go into it. Because if you don't plan on taking this until the day you die, you should at least be aware of what you're going to go through when you put that stuff down. Because I guarantee you they tell us that this stuff isn't addictive, and there are side effects of quitting it that are really hard to live through. Yeah. And I've seen that with my own eyes, in my own family, with personal experience. Yeah, just be careful with that stuff. And there is nothing wrong with learning more about something that you're putting in your body. Nothing at all. And when you're doing research like this, always get more than one source. Don't just read some whack job article that somebody wrote and take that as gospel. You gotta go to several different sources and see if they agree with each other. Completely unrelated sources, and say, hey, all three of these completely unrelated people are having the same experience with this crap. So, maybe I'll go back to my doctor and ask for something else. Alzheimer's. We just now getting Alzheimer's in the last, few decades. That didn't exist before. All these old people were living into their old ages, and they didn't get Alzheimer's. They didn't get all this stuff. So why has this popped up all of a sudden? I just heard a study that our brain is made from cholesterol, at least a certain percentage of it. So our brain needs cholesterol. Now, if you take cholesterol out of everyone's diet and replace it with margarine and all these vegetable oils and stuff, now your brain needs that cholesterol. You've taken it away. That's another coincidence that hits the regular people. It's pretty coincidental that our brain needs cholesterol, and after you pretty much take cholesterol out and demonize cholesterol, then Alzheimer's skyrockets. Now, I'm not giving medical advice again. You got to look into this stuff yourselves. I know I keep repeating myself, but I'm just telling you about my personal experience, because a lot of people out there don't even know enough to think about researching this stuff, because you're wrapped up in your life and your work and your kids and all this stuff, and you don't even have the time, you think, to go research this stuff. But some of this stuff is really important. Some people are literally disabled and immobile completely due to things that they can control. But the medical establishment and the pharmaceutical establishment want to keep them sick so they can keep making money off of them. And that makes me sick. And once you realize that, and that's the truth, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you're going, that's the truth no matter what, is follow the money. Once you realize that the pharmaceutical company and the medical industry, they don't make any money off of healthy people, the only way they continue to thrive and to make more profits is to keep you sick. Once you realize that, you can't help but think more. You can't help but open your eyes. You can't help but realize what we're dealing with. They're a for-profit industry. That is exactly what they are. And I'll leave you there. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click on that super thanks button down there. Or you can hop over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I'll put that link down in the description. We also have some pretty cool stuff over there at Redbubble. Gen X and Gen X Thinks branded gear. Hats and t-shirts and coffee mugs and stickers, stuff like that. And I'll put that link down in the description too. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a lot. I thank those of you who do that. I really appreciate it. And if you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments, or you can email us, and the email address is over on the channel page. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.